Welcome back to our channel. We've been gone for a minute, now we back with the jump off. Goons in the clip, in case something jumps off. Wise words of Lil' Kim.
And that is how we're starting season 2, ladies and gentlemen. I'm Christian.
And I'm that bitch.
Borderline uncomfortable. And thank you for those of you who were with us with season 1 and are coming back to see what else we're going to get into. Thank you for coming back. We appreciate your time and consideration. For anyone out there who's new, thank you for coming. We appreciate your time and consideration. I want to know if anyone saw our posters on in like around Union Square, or where do we go? Like St. Mark's?
St. Mark's.
So if you did, let us know somehow, some way. You can visit our website that we started in between seasons, borderlineuncomfortable.com. You could also find our podcast there in video and audio form, and you can send us a message. So check it out. And we're on Spotify. If you're watching this on YouTube, we're on Spotify, Apple Podcasts, Google Podcasts. And if you're listening to us on a podcast platform and would like to see what we look like, I don't know why, but no, just kidding. You can find us on YouTube or Instagram at Borderline Uncomfortable. Diamond, how are you? Or how do you feel about the end of 2020?
2020 was an epic fucking dumpster fire fail.
But in your personal life.
That's what it was.
Okay.
That's what it was. A lot of... it was a dumpster fire, nonsensical. I mean, it was trash. The whole year for me was trash. But I will say a positive is that I started therapy, which was really beneficial, and it works. So for those of you who say don't do therapy, or afraid of therapy or whatever, just give it a shot, because it really does help. And you will if you get the proper therapist and you take it seriously, really take the work seriously, it can be beneficial. So 2020, it was a clusterfuck, but with therapy and you can do it all with therapy. How was your 2020? Or whatever the question was.
My 2020 was just the end of my 2020. The end of my 2020 was hopeful for me. I started working on, I have sort of this creative partner right now that we've been working on some projects. We have one that already came out, These Waters Bleed Deep, which is, you can find on my Instagram or on YouTube if you type in These Waters Bleed Deep. And we're working on a documentary right now. So I'm feeling creatively charged. The end of 2020 going into 2021, I've been feeling creatively charged. We have this podcast, and I've actually been working on another project, another podcast that I hope to release soon. I already recorded a couple episodes. That one's going to be about film. So I don't know. It's just creatively, just productively, I feel I've been feeling good. So, you know, I was going around saying 2020 is going to be my year because 20 is my favorite number. 20 is the day that I was born. And while I didn't become a renowned filmmaker who is dropping money as I walk, it kind of was, in the sense that things started happening. Balls started rolling, gears started turning, and I'm excited to see what this year brings.
What are some goals for 2021 for you?
I want to be in 2021, by the end of 2021, in a place financially where I'm just like, I feel really good about myself, really positive about the work I've done, or not even that, like investments, you know, just financially trying to grow more, learning how to be stable. Yeah, what about you, Diamond? What are your goals for 2021?
Mm, this is a really good question. Of course, not of course, but I will be continuing my therapy. Um, Again, go to therapy because it's beneficial. Um, Also, I graduate college this year, so that's a goal. Just to be done with my undergrad finally, and maybe apply for grad school this year. Or I don't know if I want to take a break or whatever, but figuring that out. And I have a lot that will be happening this year that I'm not willing to share, but I have this idea of Diamond 2.0, who you know about. It's kind of like how Beyonce has Sasha Fierce. My Sasha is D 2.0. That's what I'm gonna call her. D. No, I'm gonna call her Diamond 2.0 because I can't say that.
D2D2? No.
D2. No. Yeah, I some of my more personal goals are my goals for 2021. Um, but what I will share is my therapy and I'll say my personal evolution is all the steps that I'm taking to get to Diamond 2.0, that those are my goals. And something I say often, but I just want to be surrounded by beautiful things. So, um, those are my goals: to surround myself with beautiful things, and to reach, to get to Diamond 2.0.
So, what are some of the beautiful things that you would like to surround yourself with?
Big black.
Oh,
Kidding. Not really. Not really. So some of the beautiful things that I want to be surrounded by. First, my own the I want to be surrounded by my self-love. And that may sound cliche, but I want that's that would be like my outer shell almost, just my self-love that surrounds me, that fills me. And then plants. I want a lot of plants. I love, like, if you see my room, it's not full of plants, but like, because I don't have a lot of space, but it's as full as it can be right now of plants. I want to be somewhere that allows me to see a fresh, not fresh, a cleaner body of water. I want to be surrounded by people, and again, I feel like I said this earlier today, and I don't want to sound pretentious. I did say this earlier today, but I want to be surrounded by beautiful people who are on the same wavelength as me. I was first going to say on my level, but that's not fair. But who are just on the same wavelength as me, who are moving towards optimism and self progression and self love, as you know, again, as cliche as it may sound. Um, and I want a dog. I think dogs are beautiful. That's how I'm gonna surround myself with, and again, going back to me, just like self comfort, um, that's the beauty. Just and art is always wonderful to me. I want when I wake up in the morning, I just want to be surrounded by art, plants, things that are visually um, appeasing. And then when I start my day, I want to be surrounded, maybe not surrounded by it, but I want to have the ability to engage with folks who, again, are on that same wavelength as me. And that's it. I just want to be surrounded by beautiful people, beautiful things, good food, like just goodness, That's it.
I want to be surrounded by beautiful trees, beautiful mountains, beautiful rivers, beautiful books,
Mm.
um, beautiful movie theaters. I miss the movie theaters. We'll get there. 2022.
2022, 2021 will, I think it'll be a fine year. I mean, outside of coronavirus, um, I think the year will be fine. I mean, there's a couple vaccines coming into play. People are, um, well, I don't know what people are doing, but there are vaccines coming into play, which hopefully people will take. And apparently, the CUNY system is planning on reopening the fall of 2021. So, you know, good things hopefully will be happening 2021. But I think 2022, at least for me, that will be my year of like, I think 2022 will be when I become a full adult. Like, I think by 2022 I will actually be a full adult, meaning that financial independence that you were mentioning before. I think that's something that I'll have. Um and that's the key element for me. All of the mental and physical work I'm doing this year. Of course, that's this year and all beyond, but it's really starting this year. Um, and then in 2022, by the end of 2020, that's even a mouthful for me. 2022, I think I will be at in a place financially where I'm like, okay, I'm a true adult. Here we go.
I could hear like people older than us, maybe my grandparents' generation, especially just listening to this and saying, "How are you not there yet?" When I was your age, I already had a place. I had 3 kids, and I came from DR. I didn't speak a lick of English.
It's kind of interesting how, because my grandmother will say the same thing. Same as your parents or your grandparents. Like, I came to this country, I knew nobody, I had nothing, and then I bought a house in Brooklyn and all these things. But it's like, I don't know, sis, it's hard. Like, I don't know, what did you do? Tell me what you did. Like, did you sell your soul? I don't know.
Are we
But
spoiled maybe or too used to that?
oh,
I
of
feel
course,
like
we're spoiled and entitled. Hell yeah.
I'm a almost 30-year-old man living with my grandparents, but they love it.
It's hard to live alone in New York. Don't do that to yourself. It's hard.
I feel like if I had to right now, I could move out, but it would just be really silly to dip into my investments when I have this setup here, for now at least. When I start making money again regularly, um, maybe I'll think about it. But of course, that would have to be post-pandemic because I wouldn't want to leave my grandparents alone. But I would want to leave the city. I'd want to go back to the mountains. Get a car so I can travel back to the city because that's where the movie making is happening. But I don't want to be here anymore. Except for the movies. And the bookstores.
That's funny that you say that, because um as I'm considering um places to live, uh what's basically the thing that would hold me here is work, if that comes to fruition, right? And the fact that not a lot of places outside of, let's say, New York and maybe LA have the types of Black communities that I'm seeking. And you can find, of course, Black people everywhere, but for you, what you said, the movies and work would hold you back. But for me, it's that community, and not the community in particular. It's like it's I can buy Black here, and I know you can do that online, but in Brooklyn alone, I can go to a Black owned, not grocery market, but like almost grocery market. I can go shopping for clothing. I can go to a bookstore. I can go to, and not just one. Like, I have options. I can go to a liquor store, and the one that I go to, Happy Cork, sells, I would say, I think they're at 100% Black owned alcoholic beverages, from wine to liquor to hard ciders, everything. And that is not easy to do anywhere else. Like it's pretty incredible. So that's something that sense of community and like yeah, I'm just going to call it community because I can't think of another word for it, but that sense of community is what would make me want to stay here. But outside of that, fuck New York. It is expensive. Yeah, you get paid, excuse me, more, but is it worth my sanity? No. And honestly, I'm tired of taking the train. I know it's convenient and it's cheaper, but no, I want my own car. I don't want to be around people like that. And I'm, again, going back to the money. I don't want to pay $1,600 for, I don't know, a room, a bathroom, and a kitchen all in one space. No, that's bananas. It's highway robbery, New York style, the rent here. So that makes it not worth it. But I do like the, but you know, okay, I like the accessibility. I like that really New York kind of like it sleeps, but there's you could always find someone up, you know? I like that, but how often am I going out 3 o'clock in the morning to get like an 8 course meal? Never, you know, like I mean, when pre-COVID, yeah, I would stay out late and go to concerts, but oh, actually, I'm gonna miss the concerts because I went to a lot of them. Like I actually had a full life. I had a very full life between like just the arts that I would like the different types of museums or like shows, fairs that I would go to.
I don't know,
I don't
Diamond.
know.
Doesn't sound like you want to leave New York.
No, I'm just thinking. I'm thinking. Well, 3 minutes ago, I was thinking of like during COVID, and I'm like, this sucks here because it does. But pre-COVID, I was very active. I was active in my community, and like I just mentioned, there was a lot to do when I did it. Um, but I'm sure. Actually, damn, can I move? Will I be bored? What will I do? Who? I don't know. Huh. I gotta think about this more because I'm definitely in the mindset of like current. I'm in the current mindset. I'm not thinking really forward for when things reopen and life goes back to normal.
Mhm.
And it's gonna be kind of lit in New York. Think about it. Like after COVID, it's gonna be wild here in New York City. Just imagine your block, the parties. Like just imagine your block.
First of all, our neighbors were having parties during COVID and
Oh,
big
they're
parties.
ghetto.
So it was to
Yeah.
the point where I had to record it because I don't know what I was gonna do with it. I guess I was just gonna send it to you, but like, can you believe the nerve? Um, but I mean, yeah. So that was it was crazy. Yeah, no, for me, COVID. Uh, the thing only thing it changed really was the movie stuff. I mean, other than not being able to go out there because I was working on productions, um, right before COVID, but just in terms of like general activity, just my life in general outside of work, the only really thing that is stopped for me was the movie theaters, which is something I miss deeply, profoundly. And for a long time, I wasn't watching movies, which is crazy because I have a TV, I have Blu-rays, I have subscription services, or at least my parents' subscription services, um, that I wasn't watching movies. And when I was going, but before COVID, I was going to the theaters 3 times a week. And I just really miss watching stories unfold on a big screen. And that's part of the thing that got me in love with filmmaking was the movie theater experience. And even though I personally now don't want to make movies that are the kind of movies you have to see on a big screen, but I still miss even a drama where it's just people talking. I still prefer to see it on a big screen. So I cannot wait. I cannot wait for the theaters to come back. So you talking about wanting to be in a community of blackness, black owned businesses, just being around the black community is a good segue into this episode where we're going to be talking a little bit about politics, racism, um, and it's an episode, and we have a guest today. And so we're excited to jump into it, but I am also very nervous about it. So,
why are you nervous?
I politics.
You know, I was thinking, you had mentioned something. I wish I wrote it down because I wanted to bring this up to you specifically, but you mentioned, you're basically saying that that it's overwhelming for you, not overwhelming, but like it's hard for you to talk about it because you're not fully versed on certain topics and there's so many layers, blah, blah. And again, this politics, it just made me think that politics for a lot of people is like how you treat religion, right? So it's kind of, yeah, it may be intimidating, but it's prevalent. And I don't know the point I'm trying to make up. I basically want to say, like, don't be so afraid of it. And just because it's something that you're not super passionate about doesn't mean, like, you don't have to be.
But I think that's the thing. It's like I feel more of a pressure to talk about politics than to talk about religion. I feel like most of the time it's me bringing up religion. You know, I'm that guy, right? And then, but for the most part, I'm surrounded by people who talking politics because that seems, and religion does, intertwine with politics as the issue around racism and stuff like that. You know, everything kind of, but I don't see people really taking the time to converse in a way that feels open. I think that's what it is. I don't see people, trying to make the effort to converse openly. And that makes me nervous because I don't like confrontation, and you know that. So I just tend to not do it.
I understand. I get you.
But you know, I do it. I notice that when I do talk about religion with some people, that I'm that person that's like,
You are.
gets a little aggressive.
A little?
So it's definitely a work in progress. And I know, but like just knowing that me feeling this way, right? Knowing that these are the kind of things I'd like to see more open and inviting communication, forms of communication. Me who wants that, and I'm still struggling to do that sometimes myself for other people. It's like, fuck. So,
but I mean, at least, yeah, I get it. But at least you are aware, and when you go into conversations with folks who may not have as strong a view or points, to kind of just take it easy and allow them to get their point across while you still get your point across, but not being the aggressor in the conversation, just having a conversation, which I think is enough.
Mm-hmm.
So that's my take, but
so we're gonna get into it.
Yeah, enjoy the episode. Enjoy the conversation with Manali. She's a good egg, so enjoy. Manali, oh, I wish I could hug you. Oh, I miss your face. How are you?
I'm good. How are you?
Good, looking like a butterfly.
Oh, well, I'm over here bundled up because it's cold outside.
It sure is. We figured that you would be our best bet just because you have your own DEI company and you have a podcast, I believe, which of course you'll plug. Plug everything, girl. Plug everything. You gotta get your name out there. But I guess we can start off with you just telling us a little bit about yourself and like what you do, a little bit of your background, whatever you're comfortable with.
Yeah. So Manali Hanamsagar. So I am the founder of Vision D&I. So it's a task management platform for companies to kind of track and manage their DEI efforts and their teams. So obviously this came out of a huge need as we both saw Diamond in the past, where you know, these companies have all these big goals of, oh, let's implement all these cool things, you know, diversity, inclusion, and then they kind of just like create one group and they're like, all right, well, good luck with that. You know what I mean? So there's no like actual platform or way that helps that whole situation. So that's kind of where it was born from. And I'm
Cool.
in New York.
So I guess Manali and I, we've worked together before, so that's how we know each other. And yeah, just exactly that. There was I would say, correct me if I'm wrong, but I would say there was a significant initial push for just for, I would say, education, and I'm talking about corporate, in the corporate
Yeah.
sector, for education and like affinity groups to kind of not merge, but like get people, I don't even know what you would call it, like what the attempt was. Not
Yeah.
to bash, right? But like there was just a big push for something, but there was no real guidance for
Yeah.
that. And there's something I want to say, but I won't, because I don't know who watches this.
I know. That's what I was like.
Yeah, girl, we could edit, but
How do you run these programs? How do you look for that inclusion?
So what it is, so you know, we're in our kind of beta stage. So I'm actively talking to companies, talking to DEI agencies, like trying to see, you know, where the need is. And I think right now the need is that these companies, right, like they have all these big goals. They're like, wow, you know, it's like a hot topic right now, DEI. And what's happening is all these companies are jumping on the bandwagon when they haven't been doing anything past, you know, before 2020, most of them. Um, and so they like put together all these programs, and then where the need is, where like what needs to come together, where like the DEI part comes in, the work is that you have to create processes, you have to create budgets, you have to create education, right? Like that, all that has to be done. And that's not like a one day, one thing where it's like, oh, we just did a, you know, implicit bias training, guess we're good to go for the whole year. Like it doesn't work like that. So I think that that's where that is. It's like, you have to drill into these companies, you know, you can't just put these things together so you have a label and be like, well, we're, you know, we're pro this, pro that. It's like, no, you're pro looking good. You're pro good PR.
Mm-hmm.
That's what it is.
Mm-hmm.
So that's, you know, where that stems from.
I just want to quickly say, for those who don't know, DEI is it stands for diversity, equity, and inclusion. So that's what we mean when we're referencing that term. So I worked at a company previously that was so awesome. Let me tell you something. This company was like, oh gosh, I could gush, but I messed it up, which is a whole other story. But um, I think the value of having a team that's diverse, you have different angles. Like people bring different ideas to the table, diverse ideas to the table. And at this previous job, I'll say, so we had a group literally called the United Nations. We had Black Americans, we had Caribbean Americans, we had Africans from different countries and different tribes. We had Asians, Asians. We had white people. There was one white girl. But like it just brought a more diverse and fun environment to the workplace, period, because who wouldn't want to hang out with a whole bunch of people of color, because we lit, right?
Yeah.
And then you add different values to different teams. And it wasn't just like, I worked on HR, and the whole HR team, we were all of color except for the one white girl. And then finance was all of color, and they added their own value to the company in general. And then, well, I think it was just that. That was it. I'm not gonna lie. Actually, it was just HR and finance. But we were still the United Nations and the most important
I mean, yeah.
groups, the money and who's coming in. So it adds value to have folks of different backgrounds in these in the corporate sector. And one of you hit on something. It's like, oh, I think it was you, Manali. I don't know which one of you, but I was actually met with this at our company, where it's like, where do you meet such a diverse bunch of people? There are programs, there are seminars, there are networking opportunities, there are recruitment opportunities to meet these people. For example, as well, I think it was it J.P. Morgan Chase? I think they said that the CEO, they were kind of in the hot seat for not having a diverse team. I think a diverse executive team. If I'm not sure if it's that company or whatever. And whoever the CEO, I'm just gonna say, he was like, "Oh, I don't know where to find qualified black candidates." What? Have you heard of Howard University? Like, have you heard of any of the HBCUs within this nation? Have you heard of what was that event we were supposed to go to? I forgot what it's called. In
We're supposed to
LA.
go to Afrotech.
Afrotech. Have you heard of Afrotech? Like, there are programs, there are ways to diversify your team, but it's you are choosing not to because it works best for you. But in the long run, does it really?
Yeah, I
Um,
agree with that.
mhm.
Um, I think that people who say that they don't know where to find qualified, diverse candidates, I think that there's two things. They're not looking hard enough, or they know about it and they don't want to try hard enough. So
Mm.
that's my opinion. It's like you can't ever say there are no diverse candidates. There's no such thing. That concept doesn't exist. It's one of those things, and it all stems from a lack of effort or a lack of caring. Our The platform is a task management platform. So once a company has an HR team, they have 2 or 3 DEI members, they have employee resource groups, right? Like they have all these groups. And now you're faced with the hurdle of how do we scale? How do we do things? How do we make actions, you know? And that's like where it gets stuck. You know, you go from A, B, C, but how can you get to C when you can't even do B? And so that's what we do. So we align everyone on objectives. You can plan events, you can set objectives, you can see what everyone's doing, you can see your budget, like you can grow together. And I think what happens is that there's a lack of accountability and there's a lack of
Mm.
transparency. Because if you're in leadership, right? So if you're a CEO, if you're a CMO, you might not think that diversity applies to you. Like you might think of diversity as a separate silo. So when you hear that, oh, our company isn't being more diverse, if you're a CMO, you might be thinking, well, how is that like what does that mean for me? But so what this is meant to do is it's supposed to increase transparency. It's supposed to help accountability. So if you're in an ERG, so if you're, you know, in like an LGBTQIA group in your company, and you want to know what, you know, what's our yearly DEI budget? What is this other ERG doing? You know, like where's the transparency? What are we doing? How are we growing? And that's what the platform kind of sets the tone for and helps with.
And I think this, I don't think, I know. This applies to not like this basically this methodology applies to I almost want to say real world, but this is the real world, but it applies to like daily life, right? And I think I don't even know what I think. I have so many thoughts. I don't know where to start. I think that when we go from like so we were just talking about corporate in particular or like companies generally, right? Um but when we talk about just the day to day and like government and maybe just in within friendships or relationships personally, and this is not always easy, but I think it does us better to have maybe not even friendships but people around us who are different from us, because then again they add a new level of value into your life. They may see things differently, different perspectives or anything, and again just add value into your life. But again, it's easier said than done because oftentimes we are comfortable around the folks who look like us. And if I'm thinking about it, I think I have a pretty, no, I have a diverse group of like core friends and then acquaintances. Um, but that's kind of because of my upbringing, and I can be social, and the jobs that I've had, so it looks different because I lived a different lifestyle. Um, but generally speaking, I think this applies across the board. I think we do better when there is a sense of general community and we talk to our neighbors and we get to know them on a genuinely personal level.
Hmm. Wouldn't you feel a little bit more bought in to your work environment or even outside your work environment if you knew that, okay, either my company is taking this seriously, they're
Yep.
putting money behind it, or if like even outside, if you knew that like, okay, my friend is not just posting a black square, but she's actually, like she's doing more, you would feel like, wow, they care, it's not just, oh, all talk and then vanished. So yeah.
It's kind of interesting going like when companies talk about all this diversity, equity, inclusion stuff, they put up the black squares. But I don't know, don't you feel, not you, but wouldn't a leader of the company feel like internal fail? Like, what did we actually do? The company we worked for, like, they hired like what, 5 people of color, and then nothing really changed. I was the only black girl on my team, and we were all new as hell. Like, we were all hired within 6 months of each other.
Yes, yes.
Like, so it was just a whole bunch of white people in this company, and Asians, like, that are not in the US.
No.
So it's like, what? And y'all wonder why I was so uncomfortable and uneasy all the time, because it's like a whole bunch of blue eyes looking at me like, what this nigga gonna do? Like, for real, I'm just gonna have to table one day like, what do you think? I don't know. I think I just want to go the fuck home. Like, this is not Get Out. Or is it? Like,
it's the corporate version of Get Out.
Right? The corporate version of Get Out. That's what it felt like. It's like you want to introduce new ideas. You do introduce new ideas. Folks rally behind you, and it's like so superficial. and because it doesn't look like what they want it to look like, it never really happens.
Yeah.
They say, "Oh yeah, this is great, blah blah blah," but then nothing happens, or like they change your language. What? Like, what? That's not what I said, sis. Not sis, but that's not what I said.
I have one specific memory, Diamond, when we were sitting in the conference room, and I was sitting in on this because we were going to talk about the club that you had put forward and proposed.
Mhm.
And I was sitting in, and we were talking on the phone, and she asked you your opinions on like, okay, like, what do you, what? And you told her, and she said, okay, well, we'll keep that top of mind. Like, it was such a dismissal.
Yeah,
Like,
yeah.
I like, that memory has stuck in my head because she was like, okay, well, that's great, and I love what you're doing, but we'll keep that top of mind. And I was like,
yeah. So, okay, should we go into the questions, or?
Yeah, let's do it. All right. So how political are you? Is that something that you get comfortable talking about, politics or racial politics or things like that?
yeah, I mean, I'm pretty comfortable talking about it. I have had several, not debates, but I will say discussions with people that don't hold the same views. And at first, I used to get really mad and annoyed, and I used to like not lash, but I just get so angry because I'm like, how are they not seeing my point of view? But I think now I've learned to kind of just it's not worth it. Like me getting
Yeah.
heated and me just being pissed. I'm just like, if I can sense that they're not willing to listen, if I listen to you, you can listen to me. And
Yeah.
if they're not willing to do that, then I'm kind of like, whatever.
It's also just a very complicated world, politics, and even racial politics. There's so many conversations to be had about racism, and I feel like if you, I heard someone say that the left has sort of become a religion. And the idea of that worries me because that means it's hard. Are we not going to be able to have these kind of conversations with different people from different backgrounds and different ideologies? Because it's like, if you don't believe what I believe, then why should I listen to you? Or you feel maybe admonished sometimes for not believing the exact same thing.
Yeah. One question that I had for you, just like off the top of my head, like in response to that, was, do you think that race should be politicized? Like, do you think that human rights, like if someone says all lives matter instead of Black lives matter, do you think that that should be a political ideology? Or is that something that's like, you don't like where's the cutoff of, oh, this is your view, this is mine, as opposed to, there is no like, this is your view, there is just, this is the right thing, you know?
Can I just, before I forget, because I have a horrible memory, it's good that you both said this, because as you both were having this conversation, I was literally thinking, CJ, you initially said the left, and I think that's become such an issue because it has become so politicized. In my opinion, I don't think we can move forward as a people, and I'm talking everybody, until we have those fundamental human rights corrected, until we all are on the same board, on the same platform, and we say, okay, this is actually wrong. Like, those things can be black and white. Like, we don't kill Black people because they scare us. We don't kill Hispanic people because they scare us. We don't let white kids off because they look like my son, right? Until we diversify the police force, like you said, like people are treated equally medically. Black women are, I think it was 4 times likely to die at childbirth over white women. That's an issue. Until there's an equal playing field, this shouldn't be politicized. It literally cannot be, because people are lacking basic human rights. And
Yeah.
the issue is that it's become so left and right that there is no middle ground. I may not agree with a large portion of the people on the right, the far right. I would, if we wanted to have a progressive conversation, I would have to listen to them, and they would have to listen to me for us to move forward. And again, because it's become so politicized, we don't even want to hear it, which is kind of scary, because it's like, you don't even know what you don't want to hear. You know?
Everything feels so absolutist.
Yeah.
It's like, it's this way or no way. And life isn't like that.
Mm-hmm.
And I mean, we can say that there's human rights, fundamental human rights, that are just like, this is wrong, this is what this is what we should be striving for, this is the goal. But then how do we get to that goal? Because we're in this world where everything is just, it's very messed up. It is beyond, and it almost feels like maybe we just don't know how to communicate.
I think so. I hear you, I understand you, but I don't I think for the people are communicating effectively. There are people who don't want them to be heard. To me, that's the bigger issue, because I can voice the concern. I can voice it. I can make it easily digestible to you, how you would take it. But if you don't want to even hear it, that becomes the bigger issue, because it's always been the same. People of color want, I don't even know what they want anymore, but in the lack of, I don't know if myself, I want to be not individualized, but I want Black people to be so self-sufficient we don't depend on anyone. So that's how I'm looking at it. I want people of color, because there are other groups of people who have done just that. But for Black people, I want us to be so independent financially. To me, that's the most important. Financially independent, to where we're not dependent on any other type of people for anything. But shit, I lost my my train of thought. That happens. I get so passionate. But I think I was talking about communication. Yeah. Oh, we've been at people of color have been asking for, Black people specifically, because that's what I am, that's what I know. Black people have been asking for equal rights for hundreds of years. White people don't want to hear it. They don't care. There are Black people who can use their Zora Neale Hurston, her words are like magic. Even she didn't get through to the white people. They don't care, which is the issue. They don't. Not all of them. I don't want to categorize all of them. But the ones who really have the power want to maintain the power, which is the issue. It's just sometimes I get really frustrated when it's like, for me at this point, like I said, I think Black people need complete financial independence to truly be free. Something my father taught me from way, way young. Your financial independence is your only independence, period. When you are able to provide for yourself financially, no one else can mess with you, because if I had the money, what else can you say to me? Nothing. Not a damn thing. And Black people have never had that. And going back to the original question at hand, it being political, I think that's a damn shame that lives have become so political. And folks, it's just really unfortunate that folks, the All Lives Matters group, they just don't see why saying Black Lives Matter, means more than All Lives Matter. Because in its most basic form, all lives cannot matter until Black lives matter. But these people still try to make all lives matter without Black lives mattering. And that's where the clash is. So, moving on, staying strong. Was that one of the questions? No, that was a Manali question.
That was my question, but you answered it.
Okay, so Manali and CJ, what made you uncomfortable about 2020? Oh, wait, are we doing that one or should we just do the political ones? Let's do all of them. I think it'll be kind of fun.
What made me uncomfortable about 2020 was the fact that everyone woke up all of a sudden. That made me uncomfortable. Right. Woke. That made me really uncomfortable, actually. So that was the most thing that made me uncomfortable, where people where they woke up and they tried to use it to make themselves look good instead of genuinely feeling like they wanted to be an ally. They felt like, oh, I don't want to be labeled a racist, so I'm going to do X, Y, and Z, as opposed to, oh, I want to be labeled an ally. It's you want to be labeled an ally versus you don't want to be labeled a racist. They're two totally different things, in my opinion. So if you want to be labeled an ally, you will take proactive steps to be an ally. If you don't want to be labeled a racist, you will take shallow steps to just prove that, hey, I'm not a racist, but I'm not going to put my money towards anything. I'm not going to put my efforts towards anything. I'm just going to tell you I support you and then peace out. So no one can ever say that I'm a racist, is like what I think like some people's mindset is. So
really quick, I'm not sure how I feel about the term ally when it comes to white people specifically and Black people, that relationship, because and I have to think more about this, but every time I hear it, I'm like, fuck, how do I feel? Like, I have to remember to research and to figure out how I feel about this, but I'm just not sure one can be a true ally when they still daily benefit from the privilege that they attain just by being them. Like, I don't know how I feel about that. Like, unless you are wielding your white privilege as a like shield of defense to people of color, that community, can you be a true ally? Like, what does that even mean? I don't know if that's white people, if that's a term that they gave themselves to make them feel better in the wake of all this 2020 shit. Because I only heard it from last year.
You're right. That's where I heard it too.
So I'm like, are y'all actually allies or y'all tricking us? I don't know. Like, I really don't. So I have to really like, I really have to hone down and figure out what does allyship mean when we're directly talking about black people and white people. What does that mean? What does that relationship really look like? Those black boxes made me very, very uncomfortable. I did not like I could understand. Actually, no, I can't understand it. Like, why would you think that that would do anything? Just leave your logo up. Like,
You know,
just silly. Uh-huh.
I actually, so I didn't do that. I was talking to someone about this, and well, I was a part of a three-way conversation like this one, and I was doing again mostly my just kind of stay quiet thing. But someone had said that they were looking for people to see if they had the box or not, and if they didn't have the box, they were kind of like, you know, they would feel a certain way. And I didn't say anything, but in my head, I'm like, oh shit, I didn't have a box and this person didn't notice. You know, do I say something? Do I not say something? Because I didn't know how that conversation was going to go. And it wasn't the time or place to have an argument. So I just stayed quiet, but yeah, it was, yeah.
I think,
It's okay.
I'm sorry, I don't want to offend the person that thought that or said that out loud, but like, how does that make sense? Because I didn't have a box. Like, did you have a box? What was the point of the box? Just to show unity? Show unity by donate to me because I need it and I'm poor and I'm black. That's how you can show unity. Like,
So you saying that, I just remembered something very recently, and I don't know if I should be saying this or not, but I'm gonna say it. A company reached out and wanted to feature me and my company in like a spotlight video. Okay. And this company is big, like it's pretty big. And I was like, at first I was like, oh, hell yes. You know, I was like really excited. And then it came out that I'm shocked that I didn't do my research on this, but there were like allegations of like racial like discrimination, like all that stuff in the past. And I was mortified. And I emailed the the lady who I had been speaking to like ASAP. And I was like, and I told her, I was like, I need you to take me and any mention of this company out of your video. I don't want to be like I went in. And so she asked again on a call. I got on a call with like the two people from this company, and they were like trying to butter me up, telling me how great, you know. And it was in that moment that I felt like I was being used as a PR stunt because I'm a person of color and my company is diversity, equity, and inclusion based. And in that moment, I was like, oh my God, like they don't even care. They want to look good by being like, look at this person who has like, who in a way I'm advocating for them because I'm like going in their brand thing. And I was like, this is so disgusting and so weird that they would like even try to just use me as a cheap PR stunt. They don't even care about what my company does. I bet if I asked them what this platform was, they would be like, I don't know. And so I'm like, you know, and it was then that I realized that people will just try to use you to look good and try to use your socials and try to use everything to make themselves better. And I think we really have to stay aware of like who's being genuine and who's not, because I felt it was a very weird, odd feeling, and I never want to feel like that again. So yeah, that was my spiel.
I just have a question. I wonder, would you have felt differently? And I don't know if this is an absurd question or not, but do you think you would have felt differently if they were honest with you and said, hey, this is something that as a company, this is something that we're struggling with and we're trying to make an active change, like a progressive change within the community of our company, and we would really love your help in this. Would you have engaged differently with them?
So if they had a different motive when coming to me, and if they said that, if they said, hey, we've had this in the past, this is what we're doing to change, this is what we've done. You know, if you, in my opinion, if you show that you're actively trying to put your money where your mouth is, if you're trying to make change, if you're trying to grow, then that's a different thing. But this company, they have like a whole Instagram account from people who worked at their company. And I was like scrolling through this Instagram account. I was like, they're not doing anything. That was my main issue. And like, you know what? If it was different, if they were actively working on it, then okay. But this company was at first, like in front, they were like, oh, you know, we messed up. But in the back, they were like, we're not going to compensate you guys. Like they were like
Mm-hmm.
really just, yeah. And I think that's what got me.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
I think the minimum that we should and could do is educate ourselves. I don't know everything either, but I do make it a habit to read the full article or maybe do 10 minutes worth of research or watch a video, you know? I think if you can't make any if there's nothing more that you can do personally, just educate yourself a little bit. I think that's fair, you know. A little bit of education will go a long way. Or if you don't want to do that, then engage in a conversation a racial and political conversation that may be uncomfortable, just like we're doing here, and challenge yourself to voice your opinions and be receptive if they are not easily accepted. You know,
Well, how are you willing to engage in these kind of conversations? Like if you're purposefully engaging with someone who you know doesn't follow, or you guys are not on the same page, are you still willing to sit there, listen, and sort of maybe ask them a little bit more questions or challenge them in a way that keeps them comfortable with being in that conversation? Or do you find yourself like just automatically like, how could you say that? And this is how it
I
really
think to
is.
a point. I think if I'm going into the conversation, I think to a degree, honestly, I'm not going to have a conversation at length with someone who is just not willing to even hear me a little bit, because I will listen to you up until the point where you start becoming belligerent, ignorant, and really hateful. If you are making valid points and we can actually talk about it and not even debate, just talk about it, that's all we can do. But if we are just not connecting, then I'm not going to waste my time, because you're not going to change your opinion, and I'm unwilling to listen to the nonsense that you're attempting to feed me.
Sometimes I see a conversation and it's even the people that, like, let's say we would normally agree with whatever they're saying, they're the ones that's starting to get angry and loud because they don't like what they're hearing from the other side. So I think it's again going back to this learning how to communicate effectively is something that we haven't mastered as a species.
Mm-hmm.
You know, as advanced as we are, you know, the only species who can actually talk like this to each other, and we haven't really mastered the art of communication.
But you know, I have to be honest. I don't find myself. I don't find myself in situations where I'm around people who don't agree with me. So for me, I mean, it happened. You know, it has happened in the past, but more recently, not so much.
Could that be dangerous?
I mean, listen, I watch Fox News to see what they're saying all the time, so I know. No, but I mean, I do. But I say that jokingly, but I mean it. I do listen if I'm not engaging in conversation on the daily with someone. That's okay. Actually, that's a lie. I forgot. There was this guy that. Actually, CJ, you might remember this. Earlier, no. Late last year, so like October through December, I was talking to this young Black Republican who was super pro-Trump. And the reason why we never connected was because we were so different politically. It was hard for me to even find him like attractive at a certain point, because it's like, but how can you believe this about your own people? And that turned me off. And to be fair, there were times where he and I would engage in conversation. I would come at him crazy. Because it's like, as a young Black man, how are you saying that the police care about you? There are people out there. and I'm saying this because the system of policing was based off of slavery, right? So it's like this system was put in place because after um after black people were given their freedom, they were not given jobs, they had no means to work or be productive anymore. So what white folks started to do were to take them, to arrest them and put them on chain gangs so they could still work for free. So the fact that you're completely ignoring that system is kind of mind-boggling to me, because you have experienced stop and frisk. You have been arrested. You have been in jail based off the color of your skin. And the fact that, again, you're choosing to ignore this and saying that, I don't even remember what excuses you're giving me, or he was giving me, but it's like, again, the fact that you're choosing to ignore this, how can I sleep with you? Like, oh, I don't even want you looking at me, you know? And that was hard for me, because it's like, I remember having these conversations with him where I wanted to be fair. And I remember thinking like, okay, Diamond, take a beat, be fair. This is what he believes. But it's like, how? You being who you are, how?
Manali, if you were starting a relationship with someone that you really liked, you guys were really well together, and then you find out that their political beliefs are a lot different from yours, could that be a deal breaker, or do you think that's something you could try to look past? Maybe something you talk about every once in a while to see where you're at and everything, but you know, it's not going to break the relationship.
Yeah, that's definitely a deal breaker. Like the person that I'm in a relationship with right now, we have very similar beliefs, but let's just say that I met someone like before that, and he told me something that was completely different. I mean, if it was like a little bit different, then I will try to like compromise. But if it was just like 180, I'm like, I don't know, because I feel like that does come into play even a little bit. And I think it just depends on like what your priority is, like of that belief. So if someone who's a completely different view, but it's not a big deal to him, he could have a different priority than someone who is like, this is a big deal to me, but we're completely different. You know what I mean? So
yeah, and maybe that's too broad of a question too, because political beliefs could be anything.
I was
like,
thinking
that.
I was thinking that.
So I guess it depends on what part of politics are we talking about.
If you have different views about like Medicare, and then like that's not, like super big deal. But, yeah.
Well, Manali, thank you for coming on the
fun.
show.
Yes.
And if you want to do any plugins.
Oh yes, please do your plugins if you want.
I'm not gonna mention my podcast because I don't do anything on that anymore. But my plugin would be, if you need any help with DEI in your company, feel free to reach out to me. I can help.
Absolutely.
And my company's name is Vision DNI.
We'll make sure folks see it.
Cool.